Act 1, Scene 4, Duncan's Palace at Forays. So we have on the stage entering the king, King Duncan, Lennox, Malcolm and Donalbain, his two sons and attendants. Duncan asks of Malcolm, "Is the execution done on Cawdor, or not those in commission yet returned?" Malcolm says, "My liege, they are not yet come back, but I have spoke with one that saw him die, who did report that very frankly he confessed his treasons, implored your highness pardon, and set forth a deep repentance." So Cawdor has been assassinated, has been executed, and has begged forgiveness. Nothing in his life became him like the leaving of it. He died as one that had been studied in his death, to throw away the dearest thing he owed, as 'twere a careless trifle. So he was almost studied in the art of dying, and he died very well, in full repentance for his part in the rebellion or the insurgents. And Duncan says, highlight this quotation, it is so important, and it indicates that, number one, Duncan is a really good and benign person, but maybe lacking some of the killer instinct that one requires in a leader. He says, "There's no art to find man's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust." So very, very important there. What Duncan is saying is, I'm not very good at telling when somebody is being two-faced, which is why he's actually just come out of, he's just been exposed to a massive rebellion and an attempt at colonization from Norway. And had it not been for people like, Banquo and Macbeth, maybe he would have been in a very, very different position this evening. So very important, while he is a benign and beloved king, he's not great at sniffing out when someone is being two-faced. Very important for highlighting. Enter Macbeth, Banquo, Ross and Angus. And Duncan says to Macbeth, he adores Macbeth, "O worthiest cousin, the sin of my ingratitude even now was heavy upon me. Thou art so far before the swiftest wing of recompense is slow to overtake thee." So the sin of my ingratitude, like I can't show you my gratitude because it's impossible to show it, because it is so heavy, because we owe you such a great debt. "Would thou hadst less deserved that the proportion both of thanks and payment might have been mine. Only I have left to say that more is thy due than all can pay." So I can never repay you. I can never thank you enough for what you've done for me and for Scotland here tonight. And Macbeth says, really honestly, "The service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Your Highness' part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to the throne and the state, children and servants, which do but what they should, by doing everything safe toward your love and honour." So he's saying, look, I only acted accordingly. Like I acted according to my status, which is just as a member of the army, I'm supposed to protect you, protect Scotland, and I acted accordingly. So you don't have to thank me at all. My thanks is serving out my duty. And he really means it. And I think this is the really important point to make about Macbeth at this moment. He's a really good man. He has a moral compass, but he has the fatal flaw of ambition. And we're going to see what wins out, the fatal flaw of ambition or his good and moral conscience. And Duncan says, "Welcome hither. And very, very important for highlighting this quotation here, I have begun to plant thee and will labour to make thee full of growing." So I've begun to plant thee. So I've begun, to give you promotion, and I will labour to make thee full of growing. So in Shakespearean texts, when you see reference to growing and plant life, when it's positive, there's always a reference there to like being godly. So Duncan is saying, it's always healthy to be growing and to plant stuff. So he's saying, look, I'm doing my best to promote you. Ironically, though, to promote him higher would be to fulfill the witch's prophecy, and like he can't possibly give away his kingship. "Noble Banquo, that hast no less deserved, nor must be known, no less to have done so. Let me enfold thee and hold thee to my heart. So, or in my heart, to my heart rather. So, Banquo, you are no less deserving of thanks. And Banquo, echoing his friend Macbeth, there if I grow, the harvest is your own. So, referencing again to growth and harvest. So, again, it's my duty, and if I grow in your thanks, then it will come back for you anyway, because my duty is to serve you. Duncan says, my plenteous joys, wanton in fullness, seek to hide themselves in drops of sorrow. So he's been through a lot in this last while. There have been attempts at his throne. Scotland has been in serious peril. So it's really probably made him really focus and think about what he should do next. So he kind of wants to get his affairs in order. So while he has all these all these thanes and earls together in one room, he says, sons, kinsmen, thanes, and you whose places are the nearest, I know we will establish our estate upon our eldest Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland, which honour must not accompanied invest him only, but signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. So in that moment, he has nominated as his successor his son Malcolm. Now, as I said in the previous scene, he would have had two successors. He's got his two sons. Malcolm is the oldest, but technically speaking, he can name a successor, but the Thanes of Scotland still need to ratify it. So, but it would be highly unlikely for them to go against the succession, or the name succession. So it's as good as writ that Malcolm now will be the next King of Scotland. So if Macbeth wants to be the king, this is another sort of obstacle, if you like, because there is a living king and there is now a named successor. So that's just really, really important. Macbeth says, Duncan finishing the quote here, from hence to Inverness and bind us to you further. So this is really important. Duncan, as a measure of thanks, is going to go and visit Inverness, or the castle of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, which is massive honour to go and visit them. So Macbeth sees it as such an honour. The rest is labour, which is not used for you. I'll be myself the harbinger, and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach. So humbly I take my leave. So he says, that's amazing. You're going to come to my castle. Let me ride ahead and so I can let my good lady wife know, and we can prepare, because obviously etiquette would dictate that there would be a banquet when the king would arrive at your house. So let me go ahead and get that ready. And Duncan says, my worthy Cawdor. Macbeth speaks aside. The Prince of Cumberland. Well, that is a step on which I must fall down or else or leap. Highlight that. It's a step on which I must fall down. I must fall down under this young king, or I'm going to have to overleap him. For in my way it lies. Highlight that. For in my way it lies. So here we have it. The ambition is there. I want to be king. I don't want to have to bow down to this young king. Highlight this very important quotation coming up here. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. So he's talking, about heaven and the sky, and not, hiding their stars so that they won't be able to see inside his chest, inside his heart, and see his black desires. So on one hand, you have this great warrior who is prepared to put down his life over and over and over again to save Scotland. But the moment that the ambition is whetted, he starts to think now, wow, well, I could be king. I could be king. And then when the successor is announced, it's like, how am I going to get over that one? I want to be king. Don't. And then he's conflicted because he doesn't want earth, or he doesn't want heaven to see his black desires. The wink at the hand, yet let that be. which the eye fears when it is done to see. So he exits. So this is a very disconcerting moment for the audience, because we're now seeing that, unlike Banquo, who has the voice of reason, who is cautious about the prophecies, Macbeth has pretty much taken them as read. They've succeeded in unlocking a vaulting ambition in him, and now he's sort of like, I'm Cawdor. Maybe I could be king. This is annoying. This guy, this Cumberland guy, is going to be king before me. What am I going to do about that? Don't see my black desires. So we already have a sense here that he is thinking strongly about maybe committing murder against the King of Scotland. So he exits anyway, and Duncan says, true worthy Banquo, he is so valiant, and in his commendations I am fed. It is a banquet to me, let's after him, whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. It is a peerless kinsman. It is a peerless kinsman. Just put an I there for irony. He's peerless, meaning there is nobody like Macbeth, which is true, but in a different sense later. But it also shows, and again, when Duncan was able to say there, there's no art to find man's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. Duncan just doesn't know. He hasn't got that sixth sense that, that killer instinct that a leader should have when he is potentially being exposed to danger. And of course, the last Thane of Cawdor betrayed him. So there's every chance that, ironically, by his giving this title to Macbeth, that the next Thane of Cawdor may betray him as well. So they exit all together. The retinue is getting together, and they're going to go to Inverness to meet with Lady Macbeth, whom we haven't met yet, and to have a banquet in celebration of Macbeth's great work. But just to recap on the scene, we have a very clear idea here now that maybe Macbeth is not going to be wholly satisfied in his role as Thane of Cawdor, because he's taken the prophecies very literally. He's taken them far more on board than Banquo has, and that could be a recipe for treason in the future.